With hero pools now introduced, the days of one-tricking are completely over. Periodically, on a week-by-week basis, Blizzard themselves are going to be banning several characters from the hero pool, meaning that the character you main might all of a sudden not be playable for a given week or multiple weeks in a row. Because of this, being flexible is more important now than it ever has been. If you're not a flexible player capable of playing multiple characters in any given role, you might be left behind, and for the weeks that your character is banned, you might drop tons of SR, or you won't know how to adequately capitalize on one of your best heroes' weaknesses being banned. That being said, in this video, we're going to teach you the top 8 tips to become a flex god so that you can start dominating the opposition, learning character after character, and being able to play each and every character you pick up at an insanely high level, just as strong as your best hero. With all that being said, let's just jump right into it, shall we? Now, for the first tip on our list, we need to talk about how flexing is valuable now. It's way more valuable than it was before, and I already talked about how flexing can be valuable to counterpick the enemy, but because of hero pools, flexing is something that's going to be necessary going forward. There's going to be no more one-tricking, and flexing brings a lot of value to the table. To start off, if you have one character that you really main, let's say it's Hanzo, and he gets banned out of the meta, you need to be able to find another character that you could still play to that same level, or else you're going to have really hard fluctuations with your SR. You want to be flexible enough to where you still can play characters well, but you could adapt to different metas. And on top of that, there's something that I'm really going to break down later, but there's going to be certain opportunities that if you are flexible, you can really take advantage of what a hero pool does to the overall meta and what characters are strong and weak. Now, to jump over to number 2 on our list, being flexible allows you to play heroes that can't be countered or is countered much less. Let me give you this example, and this is what I'm talking about. When you're flexible, you can really abuse what is banned from week to week. As an extreme example, let's say for a particular meta, both Mei and Sombra are both banned. All of a sudden, Wrecking Ball is completely unchecked, and honestly, he can just dominate enemies over and over again. His win rate would skyrocket, and he would see tons of play. If you already put the time and effort to grind Wrecking Ball, and if you already have a certain amount of skill on that hero, you can really take advantage to the fact that his 2 biggest counters are being nerfed, and you can just one-trick Wrecking Ball that week, dominate, win tons of SR. You could be going up 200, 300 SR, and basically, due to your flexibility, you can really capitalize on the fact that his counters were taken out of the equation. Now, there's even more to this concept that go into further. Let's say something like a Widowmaker is banned. All of a sudden, Afar is completely dominant, and Afar Mercy is actually unstoppable at tons of tiers of play. Now, if you don't have the time and effort and you haven't grinded Pharah, playing a terrible Pharah is still going to get shut down by a Soldier and a McCree, but an insane Pharah usually is only countered by a Widowmaker, and if Widowmaker is banned for a week, you can pretty much farm your opposition over and over again if you have that baseline already in place, if you're already flexible enough on that hero. And I'm going to get more into that later, where I talk about some heroes are way better than others, especially if they have fewer counters. But before we break down the rest of the really important things that you need to know to start becoming a flex god and dominating hero pools, I need to really quickly tell you about GameLeap.com. Don't worry, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. We're the best educational platform, and if you want to become a flex god and learn every single hero in the game extremely fast, definitely come check us out. You won't regret it. Anyways, let's move on to number 3 on our list, which is practice fundamentals. And I know that this one's kind of a boring tip. It's kind of something that everyone hears, but they don't really do, or they don't really listen to, but you really need to do it now. Flexing means that you're not going to be as specialized. Specialization is something that is really important, but flexing is also really important. But the only way to actually bring your overall level higher while at the same time becoming a flex god is to practice your fundamentals. Gameplay fundamentals, mechanical fundamentals, things like movement, things like practicing your aim, things like practicing each and every ability in Ultimate. If you practice these fundamentals, they'll transition to all different kinds of heroes. Also practice things like ability management, using natural cover, how to rotate. These things are really important to make you that much better of a player. And if you have this fundamental baseline, it's going to be a lot easier for you to flex from. That's why you see some of these really high level players, they can pick up a character for the first time just understanding what that character can do, and they can all of a sudden play it pretty well at a pretty high level. That's because they understand the fundamentals of what makes the character strong, the fundamental play styles of each and every character, and the mechanical aspects, and they practice their fundamental baseline so they have something to build off from, and it's not that hard for them to pick up one character and move on to another character. Now, moving on to number 4, you need to learn a hero pool of characters that cover different strengths and have different weaknesses. So if you do this, you'll often be able to play characters that aren't banned at the same time. So let's say if your hero pool is something like Doomfist and McCree, it's going to be really rare for both these heroes going to be banned because they really operate on different axes and they want to be played in different team comps most of the time. That way, you have characters that have different strengths and different weaknesses, but if McCree is banned, Doomfist is now stronger because one of his counters heroes is gone, and that's really good for you as a Doomfist player. And something else is both those characters aren't gonna ever be banned at the same time. So now, as before, I told in multiple guides that you should really play characters that have similar play styles and characters that have similar mechanics and stuff like that, which is definitely true. You definitely want to do that, but being able to play characters that are dramatically different kind of insulate you from being banned out of a hero pool meta, which is some other type of strength that is new due to this hero pool thing. So a lot of the things that I've taught before kind of have to be rethought when this hero pool enters the fray. Also, picking characters that are middle of the pack, not necessarily the most powerful character, but characters that are powerful enough, can definitely be a way that your character will never get banned. Let's say something like Soldier 76. I think Soldier 76 is perfectly viable all the way up to Masters and probably even beyond if you learn to maximize your effectiveness on him. That being said, I don't think Soldier will ever be a character that gets banned. He's not oppressive and he almost never has been. That's a character that you can always go to. Even if your characters get banned, let's say Widowmaker, your McCree gets banned, you can always go back to your Soldier 76 as a hit scan character that almost will never get banned assuredly. Now let's move on to tip number 5, and this is understanding that heroes that have few counters are way better. Things like Pharah, things like Hammond. These characters have a very select few amount of counters, and if you know these characters, if you practice these characters, you can really abuse the fact when their counters are banned. I talked about the Mei and Sombra example for Hammond, with Sombra being way more oppressive than Mei, and Pharah I talked about Widowmaker. If you practice these heroes and have them in the bank, when those characters that counter these heroes get banned, these hero stocks go insanely up. And in the meta of hero pools in general, these characters are definitely characters you want to grind. When hit scans get taken out of the meta, when Widowmaker gets taken out of the meta, Pharah can just simply dominate. And when Hammond, when his counters get taken out of the meta, he could just be this unstoppable force that just rolls enemies over and over again. Now moving on to tip 6 on our list, the best flex god also plays characters well when he needs to. This goes back to our specialization thing. You still want to make sure that you play your best heroes well, and you want to make sure that you're putting ample practice time. Don't get so caught up into becoming a flex god that you actually neglect playing your main hero and practicing the mechanical, the positional, and the game sense aspect of that hero. Still with specialization, I would highly suggest that you do not play other roles. Pick a role, play that role. Now I know that things are going to open up a little bit as far as the DPS heroes or the support or tank heroes that you have to play. You're going to have to be able to play much more than you did before, and specialization is going to be decreased in that aspect. But because of this, that means you really can't be wasting time playing other roles. You really need to be playing your main role and learning everything you can about that role. If you're playing a main tank, you need to be spending every hour making sure that you're ready for any changing meta. So you need to be putting time into Monkey, time into Wrecking Ball, time into Reinhardt. These characters could be banned, and all of a sudden the complete meta or the foundation for how a meta is played is dynamically different. So you really need to make sure that you get the foundation for each and every character in a role. Try not to go too wide and still specialize in each individual role. Now moving on to number 7, you need to realize that when a completely different set of heroes are viable, that entire strategies can be different. Let me give you the Brig example. If Brig is nerfed, all of a sudden Dive might be the best composition to run. And I know what you're saying. Dive is a composition that's hard to run. It takes communication, it takes this, it takes that. But if you already understand how, we have videos about Dive. If you learn how, if you practice, then you could understand how a dive is successful. Because something that a lot of people will do is they'll say, oh, Brig is dead, or oh, Brig is gone, let's play Dive, but they're Monkey, they don't call, they just dive, you know, randomly, they dive a Roadhog, or they don't understand that diving their backline is the important thing, or diving a specific target. And then they think that Dive is bad, so they don't play it anymore. When in reality, they have no idea how to play it. And that's something that you need to learn is, depending on what's in meta, complete strategies and complete fundamental like baseline compositions are gonna pivot. And if you can get the head start on that, if you understand, let's say you're a main tank and you understand, oh, if I'm Monkey, then this is how I need to execute a dive. If I'm playing Ryan, this is how I need to take space. If I'm Marissa, this is how I need to bunker. And then you take each and everything and you know right off the bat, you don't have to experiment. You already know what you need to do and your role is. That is how you win more games. That is how you climb, and that's how you become this amazing flex god, because you already know how you should be playing your character because you've already studied and done the research and watched GameLeap videos about that same topic. Now let's move on to number 8, our last flex god tips, which is look at the new hero pools as opportunities to play off meta heroes. Now this is something interesting where after a big patch comes out just regularly, for the next 2 weeks, a lot of times it's like the Wild West. Almost everything is viable. And that's going to happen way more consistently with hero pools, especially at the lower ranks where meta doesn't really exist that much in the first place. And even when it does, it takes a long time for the lower ranks to actually mirror the higher ranks as far as meta is concerned. Don't be afraid to play something untraditional. Don't be afraid to try out something and see how strong it is. Maybe all of a sudden both Ryan and Orisa are banned and there's no shield takes. Maybe you're like, okay, I'm going to try out Torb and see how good he is when the enemy doesn't have any shields to stop the Torb spam, the turret spam. Maybe he's really good. You can use this opportunity to try out these things, and don't be afraid to try things out and figure out, oh, maybe this doesn't work, maybe this does work. Experimentation is really powerful, and if you have the foundation, if you learned all these tips that I talked about, you will be able to play these heroes in a way that you can kind of pick up the pieces or fill in what is strong and what is weaker in each and every meta, what this ban means and what that means for your hero pool. And that is how you can win tons of games. That is how you can use the fact that you're going to be a flexible player and transition that straight into games won and SR gained, which I want for each and every player watching these videos, each and every subscriber of GameLeap. I want you to win every single game you possibly can, and I'm going to make sure that I release consistent videos about what the best heroes are for each and every week, so that you are at the forefront of playing whatever character is going to ensure that you have the easiest time winning that sweet SR. Now, if you want to learn how to be a flex god extremely fast, you want to prepare yourself for the new stage of Overwatch where we have hero pools coming extremely soon, you definitely need to check out GameLeap.com. We have in-depth guides over every hero on the list, and we also tell you how to play each character in any given situation. So I talked about learning how to play Winston and Dive. I talked about learning how to play a Peely style diva. For these characters, we have in-depth VOD reviews, Grandmaster VOD reviews that can help you learn how to do these things, can help you become that flex god that much quicker. And that's the problem with a lot of Overwatch content in general, is the meta is going to be changing so dramatically that no one's going to be able to keep up. You need to see Winston content, you need to see Diva content, then all of a sudden you need Genji content. GameLeap.com has you covered. We'll be sure that no matter what the meta is, you're at the forefront and you know exactly how to dominate it each and every time. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. I hope this guide has been extremely helpful for you. Any questions, please leave them in the comments down below, as well as any insight that you might have or video ideas that you want to see. I would love to make them, so just let me know. That's all I have for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time,